welcome to the very first episode of Comics Now. I'm Jordan, and I have my friend Tom.
Yo, yo, yo.
And pretty much what we're going to do is talk about comics, isn't that right, Tom?
Exactamundo.
Alright, now first up, I think since it's the first episode, we should probably just, tell everyone who the hell we are. And I guess I'll start that off. I'm Jordan. I am a comic book reader, have been for... doesn't really sound like much, but I'm going to say 5 or 6 years now. And pretty much I started off with... when was the New 52? Do you remember that? Is that...
Oh, I have not the foggiest. It seems recent. It seems
very it's like... It's 2000... I want to say 2011, but that's like way too recent.
Yeah.
And in my brain it seems earlier, but it doesn't matter. I should probably research that, but... But,
that's
all right. Yeah, basically, all I remember from, as a kid, of course, I, saw Spider-Man, watched X-Men, that kind of stuff, all that jazz, but when I really got into comic books, it was Batman, which it is for everyone, usually.
Pretty much so.
Because it's hard to really think, but all I remember is I had an iPad that I bought, which makes me think, probably 2010, 2011. But I remember just reading online about the whole New 52 thing and restarting it and all that stuff. Because, how daunting it was back in the day and be like, I want to read this comic book, but this is issue 300.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be fighting every issue. You don't know much of the backlogs.
Yeah.
It was a good way of getting new readers in.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that and being like, that's really cool. And then the whole idea of digital comics was just like, bam, this is awesome for me. And I know a lot of people don't like digital comics, but I think it's amazing, especially for people like us coming from a smaller town that didn't really have anywhere to get comic books originally.
Yeah. It's a good way of getting people the accessibility to the bigger stories and allow people to jump in and really sink their teeth into stuff.
Yeah.
Other than just getting what was it, Simpsons comic books from IGA? That was
pretty much or really, I don't even know, but
news agents. There was some news agents.
The occasional Phantom comic that you get in a show bag at the show.
Phantom, the Shepard show bag. Oh, death.
Oh God. But yeah, really, there was nowhere to get comics, and then just the fact that digital comics existed and had such an accessible way for me to get them was just amazing. And I remember pretty much the night that I found out about it, I reckon I spent over $50 on comics. Just from being like, ooh, that looks good. And then reading an issue and be like, oh shit, I'm stuck now. I think cause when I got into it, I think it was probably maybe 3 or 4 issues in of the New 52. So I was just like, ooh, I'll read Batman. Ooh, I'll read Batman the Dark Knight. Ooh, I'll read Detective Comics. And I was like, why is there so many of these Batman books? There was 5 or 6 to start with. It was ridiculous. But Batman was awesome.
Yeah, I think that no one can disagree with that point, that Batman is the best character.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the gateway drug to comics.
Yeah, exactly. I see myself as more of a Marvel guy, if you're going to split it down the middle, but I love Batman. I just love the whole Batman mythos and the whole Bat family and that kind of stuff. I'm a big Nightwing fan because back to when I was spending buying that $50 worth of comics on the first night, I downloaded the Nightwing miniseries from the 90s. What do you mean?
Oh my God, that's commitment, man.
It was the changeover from the disco suit to the new suit.
Yeah.
And it was good. I read that and I'm like, this is awesome. Why haven't I read these before? It was kind of crazy, actually.
Nightwing is actually a fantastic character. And you love it so much that your channel.
Yeah, exactly. I pretty much from that day, I'm pretty sure a month after I did that, I just changed everything. Any form of online name that I had, changed it to Nightwing, or at least Nightwing themed. I had, what was it? I made an email address and started using that. Xbox Live, PSN, any username I had to have was going to be Nightwing. And then, all this stuff like that. It was just crazy. And that's what comic books do, really.
Yeah. it's a strange beast, comic books. They change your outlook on a lot of things.
I know, right?
You go fundamentally from because we live in a very small town. We've already addressed that, but
Yeah.
Comics have always been this gateway because I was a kid who enjoyed a lot of novels and stuff.
Yeah.
But getting into comics, it really got you into that story, and you felt like you were a part of a bigger thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like recently, anyway, I've been reading heaps of DC. Like I said, I started off with the New 52, but then I quickly moved over to a lot of the Marvel stuff, and I kind of dropped off DC. Like, not on purpose, and not like I didn't want to read it. I just got caught up in all the Marvel stuff that was happening, and because one of my friends was just like, "Hey," like he found out I was into comics. He's like, "Hey, you've got to read this," and pushed. What storyline was it? Avengers Disassembled, I think, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I just got really into it and loved all the characters. And this is all around the same time as all the Marvel movies are coming out, obviously. At this point, Avengers 1 was just around the corner, and that was so exciting. And yeah, it just got me off DC. But then, yeah, like I was saying, recently, I've been reading... Like, within the last week, I've just been reading heaps of DC. I've read, like, I love Green Lantern now. Like, I liked him, but I never really read his specific stories. It was always just Justice League stuff or whatever. Yeah. But I've been reading, like, the whole New 52 run of Green Lantern, just the main Green Lantern book. I've got to read the other ones, but I didn't have them on me at the time. But, read, like, I think 20-something issues of that. And then kind of dropped off because it was like the last Jeff Johns issue.
Oh, yeah.
and it switched over to some other writer, and I read like the first couple of panels. I'm like, I just can't be bothered. And then, then I started reading Swamp Thing, and I'm in love with it.
Oh, yes, I love Swamp Thing.
My God.
If New 52 could be labeled on anything, it's called Swamp Thing and the Others. Swamp Thing was the best.
Oh my God, it's so good. Like, I know a bit about Swamp Thing just from like researching on the internet when I was like really new to it and stuff. But and like when I started reading Swamp Thing recently, I was just like, this doesn't make sense from what I know. But then they really address it later on, and like that's the big thing with the New 52. Like I don't know. It seems like there's an ambiguous kind of ruling to what is canon and what's not, because it's like if they mention it, it's canon. If they didn't mention it, it may or may not be canon.
That's a lovely area of the gray area that you can play with.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like what is it? Like the whole thing with let's take Batman for example. Like he's got obviously Damian Wayne was around. Which means that the whole thing with Talia al Ghul and Bruce Wayne obviously happened, but they never directly mention it, and then things that would have happened around then may or may not have happened.
It leaves that door open for other people to write in.
Yeah, it's just really cool that they're like being able to restart everything, keep some things, but then not necessarily keep everything.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, keep everyone happy because, hey, it may have happened.
It's clearing house, but it's like taking photos as well.
Oh yeah, it's cool. I really like it. And then obviously with the whole Marvel Now thing, like it's a they didn't really reboot, but they just kind of rebranded everything. And I think the thing with Marvel at the moment is just that as much as they can, they're trying to make the comics as similar to the movies without changing the comics too much so that they can make as much money as possible.
Yeah, well, that's the fact about it. It's just trying to get the viewing audience interested even slightly in comics because the comics industry isn't as it used to be.
Oh no, they'd be lucky to sell like 200,000 copies of a comic, like a top-end comic book these days.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, it was like close to 1 million or more.
Pretty much so. And I think with the age of digital comics coming in, I think if there's more accessibility to these things, like with on apps like the newer products, I think that's gonna keep a lot of these businesses alive, even though the movies generate the more of the funds.
Yeah, well, that's the way I think about it. Is the comic books used to be like the big thing that's what they're trying to sell, and obviously merchandise and whatever. But I think these days the movie is the big thing that they're trying to sell, and I'm not saying that the comic books take a back seat to that. It's just that they are, they're almost like advertising for the upcoming movies. Because you can kind of, yeah, like I was saying, you can kind of see things happening in the comic books that mirror the things that are happening or going to happen in the movies, or it's like the whole the fact that like Fox owns the X-Men and stuff for the movies, so
that's a giant clusterfuck that we might have to go into another day.
Oh, I know, right? We'll talk about that to an extent, but it's and the whole Fantastic Four thing as well. Like Marvel, it seems, is pretty much just shunning X-Men, or not so much X-Men, but mostly Fantastic Four, and as much as they can X-Men. To kind of like
protect themselves in a degree.
Like kind of not promote those movies. Yeah. Like and really like Fantastic Four, I like the characters and stuff, but as a group, it's kind of old fashioned.
Yeah,
which sounds kind of rude, but you know,
it's true. It's honestly true. It's that dynamic four group, and it's like, well, we can either have other people in, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's still like, it's like it is very much golden age comic book style.
Yeah, and like I said, I like the characters. I'm happy that they're around, but in saying that, I'm not looking forward to the movie.
Yeah, because those movies were kind of like shithouse. Honestly. Yeah.
And really, if you read any of the comic books and stuff recently, it's all about like the family, because like they've got their kids and stuff, and like I'm not saying it's bad because I enjoyed reading it, but it's not exactly, I don't know. It just doesn't seem as modern as everything else.
Yeah, it's that nuclear family where you can't really put other people in because it's very much tied down. You could obviously do a lot of stuff with the Thing, but that's pretty much like covered to a mass degree.
Like from the newer stuff that I've read of Fantastic Four, like they've done the whole, like they went off into space or whatever. They were going for like a time travel trip, going away for. They said in like normal time it'll be like 4 seconds, but what they did is they went out and got a new group of people to be the Fantastic Four while they're gone, and it's like Ant-Man. I can't even remember, but I just remember Ant-Man.
The B-team.
Yeah, it's like just a couple of random guys, and said, "Look, you guys are the Fantastic Four for the 4 seconds that we're gone," and then they ended up being gone longer than that. And that was a kind of cool little thing to read, but I don't know.
I think the fundamental part about the Fantastic Four that doesn't really open up too much really bigger stories is the Fantastic Four is really a unit instead of like separate people having their own stories, because it's like they're moving as like an entire unit instead of like the Avengers, which are very much kind of their own characters coming into an organization. Yeah,
and they like, you know, interchange all the characters with the Avengers.
Exactly.
Like that's another thing I was thinking about, that comparing the Justice League to the Avengers, like the amount of variety in the Avengers just makes it so much better.
But including the West Coast Avengers, who everyone forgets.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that's going to come up in a future movie. So
exactly,
and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, well, like I was saying, though, back to the Fantastic Four, and then we'll get back to the original, conversation. But with, like, for example, like Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, cool character. I like him. Like he was in Death of Wolverine. He was in, all the other crossovers and stuff. And every time I see him, I'm like, hey, that guy's cool. I'm not saying he's a bad character. I just think as a group, I don't know. They're just not.
I don't think he could function outside of the team. Like he's very vanilla. If that's the best way to say it, he's very vanilla of a character.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying he's really easily manageable. Like when he's a good guy. He's a good guy, but nothing, over the top. Yeah.
Well, it just seems like the Fantastic Four, they've kind of run them into that kind of rut almost, where they do have to be a group. Because, like, hey, I would read a Mr. Fantastic comic book if they released one, or a The Thing comic book, but they won't.
Yeah.
Not only because they won't, like, they don't want to be promoting the movie or whatever, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know. They're not really standalone characters, and they only seem to work.
Yeah, they've definitely painted themselves into a corner with that, the entire thing.
And I'm sure we're making several people angry right now. But
hey, it's all right. That's the magic of having an opinion. You can be absolutely wrong and absolutely right. Doesn't matter.
Exactly, it works out fine. But yeah, back to the original conversation, which we've completely forgotten about.
That's a podcast, man. That's a podcast.
Oh, I know, right? But yeah, like I was saying, I was getting into comics, reading DC, went over to Marvel, and Avengers vs. X-Men was the big crossover event that got me excited. That was like, I I was buying that every week the day it came out. I would have paid like $5 an issue on Comixology for that shit. Like, it was good. And I think because that was the first point in time where I kind of realized that, like, I knew that they were all in the same kind of, like, same universe and same Earth. But at the same time, that was the first time where I'm actually like, oh, wow, these characters actually, you know, are together. Like,
yeah,
seeing,
exactly.
seeing, you know, X-Men, for example, like Cyclops and stuff in the same places, like, you know, Captain America, Spider-Man. It was just...
Exactly.
It was a real eye-opener for me in terms of comics. Like, I know that makes me sound like a super noob.
That's right.
But it was... That's just one of the big turning points for me, really.
I think, yeah, because it's that whole idea, you kind of imagine them in their own separate universes existing upon their own, and then when they merge, it's just like, oh, man, I had so many thoughts, like, man, you know who would win that fight, yada, yada. It's always that conversation you have.
Yeah, it was just cool. And then, yeah, like I was saying, recently got way back into DC, and I'm loving it. And especially with, like, I think it has a lot to do with the movies coming out and the new announcements of the DC movies just makes me really excited to read more of them.
Oh, man, Slate, the DC lineup is really showing them they've got some kick in their ass.
I know, but they've got some balls to just put it out there like that. Like, if they change anything, they're going to get their ass killed for it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Like, if in like 2 years, they're like, you know what, let's not make Cyborg a movie. Someone will be like, are you fucking serious, mate?
Are you for reals? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that little notice, I'm Tom, and my comic history kind of started a little bit later, back when the comic book store came into town.
Yeah.
That's a good chapter line if there was a chapter.
I forgot to mention, when the comic book store was actually in town, I had spent quite a bit of money there on stuff. Mostly, I remember I actually got into Walking Dead pretty much by recommendation from that store.
Yeah.
But then since the TV show, I've kind of dropped off it. I'll say that.
That's understandable. I that's what I've heard quite a lot of people say.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how I got into comic books, I'm kind of a late game and a bit of a snob, if you could be. I like myself some Deadpool, but I have Deadpool #1 in my house. I can't look at it right now because it's in a plastic bag. Don't touch it. It's so good. I think when the comic book store came to town, I kind of just hanged out there all the time, really, when I had some free time and hanged out there. And later on, one of the owners of the store became my roommate.
Well, that's always helpful.
Yeah. I could tell you some stories about that chaos that happened there, but it only lasted a couple of years, which was very disappointing. But
it sucked because I had moved out of town and then moved back, and it was gone, and I was just like, oh, yeah. What will I do?
Exactly. Yeah, the original place used to be tons of games where
that was a good
game rental store. Oh,
even when that was there, that was cool. I remember renting Pokemon games when I didn't have money to afford it.
Yeah, I rented Dragon's Quest on the Game Boy so much.
Whoa.
That was the best. That was my jam. It had like the plastic case. Just forget about it, man.
That's really cool. Speaking of Dragon Quest, I bought like the DS version of that from Kmart the other week for literally like $5.
What?
Yeah, it was like the last one there, and I saw it for $5, and I was just like, I can't not buy this.
Yeah, that's a legal obligation to pick that up.
Exactly. But back to your story.
Yeah, living in that comic's nature, you hear a lot of stories, and obviously the 52 came in, and just I'll run down some of my personal favorites because I've written them down. Scud, the Disposable Assassin, is one of my own personal favorites. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my own recommendation if you want to check that out.
I will check that out. I'll be writing that down right now.
Exactly. Rob Schrub was the creator of that, and he later went on to work for Community, so you know that kind of comic styles.
Well, you know he's good then.
Yeah, exactly. But he's kind of a troll right now on the internet.
But who isn't?
Exactly these days. The Walking Dead, obviously, I'm a big fan. And speaking of The Walking Dead, that's... from the TV show, it just expanded into just the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Like even Payday 2, which I'm a big fan of, the creators of that, Overkill, are making their own Overkill's The Walking Dead, which is a 4-player
really?
survival game. That's gonna be awesome, and
wow.
That's something to check out. That's something to note it down. And obviously Watchmen.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get into that topic at a later point.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. But going back to Deadpool, Brian Posehn, who's a big comic writer and a comedian, and does his own podcast.
Ooh.
Exactly. I think it's a D&D podcast called Nerd Poker. And
awesome.
I check out the book and listen to the podcast, and the comic styles are very fluent. And the Deadpool movie coming soon.
Oh my god! Oh god!
The trailer. No, not the trailer. The teaser that they made. That Origins ruined Deadpool.
Yeah, but it's good because now Days of Future Past has just written that out of existence, so it's all good.
Fucking mundo.
I know. I was so excited for Days of Future Past when I realized what it could do.
Exactly, and just. I consider myself like kind of comics and just the comic world in general. Like I love my own personal way I got into comics was through the Simpsons comics at the IGAs.
Yeah,
but also Batman the animated series.
I think that's a starting point for everyone. Like, in saying that, I'm 23. I know people that are like 40 something that say, yeah, I got into comics because of that show, and that's what makes me love Batman. And I don't blame them.
I don't blame them entirely. that is I in fact Halloween as a kid dressed up as Batman from the Batman animated series.
I think I saw a picture of you with a Batman mask on as a kid.
And I was
on Facebook.
Yes, that was the best show.
Well, well, that's the thing. Like I said before, Batman got me when I was like a couple of years ago, but really, like Batman, my whole life there's something to do with Batman in there.
Yeah. Everything. The Batman is such a interesting character, and it's a character of much discovery.
Oh yeah,
and everyone can see themselves within Batman or different elements, and I think
that's the appeal, really.
Yeah, exactly, and just that show was so well written, it's so well animated.
Oh
just like the best of both worlds. And if you haven't checked it out, get your hands on it. Just watch it.
That's the thing. If you're listening to this and you've never seen Batman the animated series, go for it. And I'll admit it is a bit dated these days. Like I watched a bit of it a couple of years ago, and like it's a 23-year-old show, really. Like
exactly,
but it's old, like old style animation. But in saying that, it looks and sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, it's so polished. That's the best way to say it. It's such a polished show.
And it's like the birthplace of the voices for those characters that you see so much these days, like in games and everything, like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and the Joker. Like those two voices just fit. It's just weird.
The voice is just like it's so natural. You see people doing voices, and those just feel like the character is coming through them. That's the best way to say it.
And in saying that, there's plenty of people who can do a good Batman voice. I can't remember the guy, but whoever did Batman in Dark Knight Returns, he's awesome, but that's an older Batman, so that doesn't matter. But there's the
comic, not the movie.
But it's I don't know. It's just It's Batman rules. My point is Batman rules, and that's all that needs to be said.
Batman rules indefinitely. But I think I love everything in the comics universe. Like I know the knowledge of Martian Manhunter loving Oreos to even like the minutia of just like every character. I love comics in general, but I still love the books themselves. So there's always a place for every version of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, in saying that, one of the big things that made me want to read comics, like I said, I wanted to read comics when I was a kid, but we had no access to them. Exactly. And at the same time, it was daunting to be like, hey, I'm going to pick up, issue 500 of this Amazing Spider-Man and read that. That's scary, because then you're like, I've got 500 issues of not knowing anything, and then
it's been dropped in the deep end, essentially, of comics.
Yeah, exactly, and that was a scary thing. But then, being able to get them now has made it so much easier. But then, like I was saying, back then, we had animated series, movies, toys, for God's sake. Like,
oh god, yeah.
One of my two favorite toys I've ever had in my life. One of them was a money box. It was a Batmobile money box.
Oh yes.
I can't remember whether it was a Batmobile from Batman Returns or Batman and Robin. I think it was Batman and Robin. But I loved that. Like, it was a money box, and I played with it like a toy. Until my dog like chewed it up because it was like rubber and it was just destroyed. And then my other one was this crazy Batman figure. It was kind of looked like the Nightfall Azrael Batman, but it wasn't. It was just like, it was all gold. Like, he was wearing a gold Batman suit, and he had these big, like, almost Transformer like wings.
Yeah.
It was just the weirdest toy I've ever seen in my life, and I loved it so much. And I'm pretty sure my dog chewed that up too.
I think at that age, every comic book character, when they really got released to a toy, they either had a useless cycle of something or way too many attachments.
Yeah, well, they do that even now. Like, you go down to the store and it's like, Spider-Man figure with super duper web shooter blasters and
yeah. And the Flash gets a cycle, and everyone gets a cycle.
And it's like, why the fuck would the Flash want a bike?
Exactly.
Like, he can run faster than that thing. It's dumb. I'll admit, the toys I've got a lot better these days. Like, even like the Lego and stuff. I'm so tempted to start buying superhero Lego. Like, I was looking, there was one set the other day, and it's like, you get a Batmobile car type thing with Batman in it, and then you get like a Riddler and a Riddler type car, like a green one with question marks on it, and then you get the Flash, and the picture on the front is like Batman, the Flash, and the Riddler racing. And I was just like, I was looking at it like, that's worth the like $20-$30. Like,
exactly. That's worth just to have on a shelf and look at. Like, that's I would never expect, as 10 years ago, I would never have expected, Lego to be so fundamental into comics these days.
Oh, I know.
It's really surprising, and I don't look at it as a negative. It's fantastic. Like, the Lego Batman games, like.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the Lego games, but they are cool. Like, the new Lego Batman looks awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have to pick it up. I have to. That's one of my things I'm going to look into in the Steam sales.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
But it's just that's the thing. Like you said, I love comic books, but it's the whole comic.
Universe.
It's hard to say, but like the culture, I guess. I just love
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And like, in saying that, like, I'm a huge comic book fan, but I'm into a lot of anime stuff like that. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, and
who isn't?
Yeah, and like, really, that's kind of another thing that got me into reading comic books. Like, I got like technically the first comic books I ever bought was all the Dragon Ball manga, which I have the whole set of. Which I guess, it's a comic book. It's just not a Western comic book.
Yeah. I think my first comic that I ever gotten was either a Star Wars one.
Oh yeah, Star Wars comics. Wow.
Or a Phantom one that I got in a show bag.
Oh yeah. I remember having. Well, thinking back, I say that about the Dragon Ball ones. They're the first ones I remember getting.
Yeah.
But I remember having, obviously the Phantom ones, because you'd look at it and be like, this is shit.
Yeah.
And then I remember having, X-Man. Which is essentially, from what I've researched of it, X-Men is like a alternate universe version of Cable.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's related to him or something. But I remember having that, and I'm pretty sure it was like issue 1 or 2, which is, from what I remember looking up, it was a while ago, could be worth something. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure I like destroyed that thing.
For good reason, honestly, for good reason.
But yeah, and I remember having that, and I remember as a kid, if I ever saw Wolverine, I would always call him X-Man, even though I think it was just Wolverine was in one of the issues. I remember having a bunch of X-Men novels. I don't know if they were like legit or anything.
I think they might be. Yeah,
I remember getting them from. I remember getting them from the marketplace newsagent's place.
Yes, yeah, they are. I believe they are the novelization.
Yeah,
so they did.
I remember I had I'm pretty sure I had like the Weapon X novelization, and I remember I would like read like half of, or, like I read like nothing of it, but I remember there was always that. You remember when the adaptions of movies and stuff, you'd always just go to the middle and it's just pictures.
Yeah. And it's like these stills of like that.
Yeah, it was like that, but like you go there and it's just got all like the panels from the comic book. Like it was kind of weird. Like why make a comic book into a book?
It's the same logic behind Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Yeah, and that reminds me of what is it? Pokemon Origins. It's an anime based on a game. It's hard. It's a game. No, yeah, it's like an anime based on a game based on an anime based on a game.
That's too far down the rabbit hole, man.
Oh, I know, right? But yeah, I remember having that. I remember looking at the pictures, and it was just like really like almost grotesque looking pictures of like a half naked Wolverine with like fucking getting the adamantium put in him and stuff. And I remember looking at it and being like, I don't want to read this. I'm a 12-year-old kid and this is scaring me.
I think one of my best friends had some of the Youngbloods early on. And if you've ever seen Liefeld draw, the Youngbloods are horrific.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's like, imagine like a man who's taken steroids and having their bones just instantly disappear. And then put a wireframe inside of that, because it's like the most horrific stuff I've ever seen.
Like there are some artists out there that can draw well, but at the same time it looks just weird.
Oh, it's just like chest boobs.
Oh yeah, it's I think it must be. I think it's Liefeld. Is he the one that did the that Captain America with like the huge tits?
Yeah. That's what I was talking about. Like the Nicki Minaj butt for a chest.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just crazy.
Fucking Liefeld. Yeah, that's a lot of people refer that as Youngblood's disease when the body's just completely distorted.
That's awesome.
But I think right now might be a good time to jump into some later comic news right now. The Age of Ultron.
Oh, that's going to be the best movie in the world. I'm so excited.
And we know the background, what's going past that.
Yeah.
That's going to be
it's all speculation at this point, really, but I'm pretty sure that the general public has kind of worked out where they're going.
Yeah.
And so, it seems good.
Yeah, so it's going to be Age of Ultron into Civil War?
Yeah, or pretty much. Age of Ultron most likely leading into Civil War with Captain America 3, and then continuing that as well as resolving that in Avengers 3.
Yeah, Avengers 3. I don't know where the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be fit into that.
I think at the moment, I would assume they're going to stay out in space for a bit, and then I reckon even maybe a cameo at the end of Avengers 3, which then leads into more Infinity / Thanos type stuff.
Oh, that's going to be so good. So let's break it down. Let's break down the character of Ultron.
Yep.
So I'll run through what the comics put it to. So Hank Pym, also known as Ant-Man.
The original Ant-Man, anyway.
The original Ant-Man built an AI, or depending on the machine itself, known as Ultron 1, based on his own brainwaves. It came to life, or whatever manufactured it itself.
Yep.
It's either wiped Hank Pym's brain, or he just completely forgot about it, which is odd.
I think technically it's he wiped his brain of it, but I think there's some references to it where he just kind of says that he just kind of suppressed it and didn't want to admit it type thing.
Yeah. And we'll jump into the idea behind Ant-Man in the movie series at a later point. But he then upgrades himself either many times up to either Ultron 5. Then it's the first appearance when he like, I'm going to attack the Avengers.
Yeah.
Why did I go the whole see versus that one?
That's a good Ultron voice. If they didn't get David Spader, is that his name? Fuck, my brain's not working.
He's on that lawyer show. On that lawyer show.
I went to say David Spade, which is horrible.
I think it's David Spade. I think
that's that guy. It's Spader. I know that.
Spader. Yeah, you are.
I'm having a mental blank right now, but I know the guy.
Yeah.
But if they didn't get him, they could have just got you to do that voice.
Exactly. Call me up. I've got the numbers. So in that storyline, Jarvis was blackmailed or kind of forced to give information to Ultron, who then mind controlled him into first appearing like, I'm attacking the Avengers, Jarvis. And now then they dropped him the second issue immediately. Like then he ran off and talked to someone else like, go help him. But that's the most part of it. Then he got destroyed by smashing his head into a fucking wall.
That's a good way to die.
Yeah, it's boom. Oh, good work by the Vision, who he created.
Yep.
That's talking about comics is just like, I'm going to turn on that tangent.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Comic books are like that. It's very quick changing and, issue to issue, something big is going to happen. So
exactly. It's like reading a Wikipedia article and it's like, related. I'll check that out. Check that out 5 hours later. Oh, God, I know everything about penguins.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Then Ultron goes ahead and gives himself adamantium, which is the same shink Wolverine claws of that material, and that's kind of where we're leaving at it in the idea of Ultron.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of other stuff like obviously in the recent the actual Age of Ultron comic, which has nothing to do with the movie.
Exactly.
Or very, very little to do with it anyway.
Which is actually more about the Days of Future Past storyline.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, but it's a good read because it actually gives you a bit of that backstory with Hank Pym. Because in that what is it, Wolverine and Invisible Woman or whatever, Invisible Girl, they go back in time to kill Hank Pym pretty much, but then that changes. But yeah, so. It's
time travel. It's confusing.
Yeah, well, once the movies delve into time travel, it'll be interesting. Although there's rumors of that happening in Avengers 2, so we will see. I don't think it will. I think they'll be avoiding that for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Time travel is always a confusing thing.
Yeah, it's you either have to fudge the rules or just kind of like hand wave everything a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like Days of Future Past is one of the first actual time travel superhero movies that we've seen, and I'm really kind of happy with the way they did that. Like, they
put a nice bow on it.
Yeah, like they actually thought through the rules of time travel in that universe. Because I heard someone saying it the other day. Like, I'm happy for people like in these movies they can do whatever they want as long as it adheres to like a set of rules that is constant throughout that universe, you know what I mean?
Exactly. It has to be set to a logic that people can follow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be like, time travel, wacky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
back to Ultron.
Back to Ultron. Some facts you should know outside of it. Ultron has kind of an Oedipus complex with good old Ant-Man and Scarlet Witch, who was. Oh no! My apologies. No, the Wasp.
Yes.
That's an entire. You don't even want to think about that idea of a metal man. Talk about toys. But in the trailer, we in the entire thing, I actually wrote this down. I researched. There we go. Good on me.
Did more than me.
Only one line in the only one line that Ultron says of is original. The rest are lyrics from
Pinocchio, yeah?
Pinocchio.
Yeah.
I have no strings.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And, like, it makes sense because, obviously, Marvel and Disney, but...
Exactly, yeah, obviously. You use that.
It's pretty cool.
Years. Which is going to be interesting how Ultron's going to be created because Hank Pym is not in this. That is
he's in the universe, but he's not being introduced until afterwards. When Ant-Man comes out. But what I think is we had the I think it was the official synopsis or plot synopsis or whatever came out for the movie, and they said in it that what happens is Tony Stark he restarts an old peacekeeping plan or something along the lines of that, which essentially is the Ultron or whatever.
Yeah. And
in the trailer we see a flashback. Well, what we assume is a flashback with Steve Rogers, Captain America, with, what's her name, Peggy Carter, and another guy who we're assuming is Howard Stark back in World War II times. Mm-hmm. And what my theory is, because in this universe, Hank Pym is an old man, which makes me think, well, back then he would be, like, before Steve Rogers was... frozen and whatever, he may have been around. So what the thing there is that he could be that Howard Stark and Hank Pym come up with the idea for Ultron, and then at the time they go, we don't have the technology for this, we'll shelf it, and then 70
perfectly.
Yeah, and then 70 years down the track, Tony Stark's like, hey, look, this is a good idea. And then that could lead into Ant-Man, kind of, you know?
Exactly. Well, in that point, you could actually lead it through Jarvis, kind of referencing the original comics. And you can see in the trailer itself, obviously, the Ultron body is made of Iron Man parts to a degree. And I think that's been featured in the comics to a degree.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, is that from what I know anyway, it seems like, that Ultron starts off as like an AI, essentially a Iron Man suit with some AI in it, backfires and then goes on a way to upgrade himself. So technically, Ultron is the Ultron 1 that you see at the the inception of Ultron in the comics.
Exactly, and I believe in one of the teasers they showed at either Comic-Con or at some sort of logic event that you see the Iron Man mask turn into an Ultron mask.
Yeah, that was the original announcement.
Yeah.
I remember that. I have a post on my Instagram of just the picture that said Avengers: Age of Ultron. That was I remember watching that video and just like dying. But go on.
I think Ultron is actually another thing we should bring up: the Hulkbuster armor. Was so gratefully looked over in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, no, Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3.
Technically, the one that we saw in that technically wasn't a Hulkbuster, but
it's a heavily loaded one, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But it everyone saw that and went, "Holy shit!" I think that just kind of kickstarted everyone's imagination, and everyone's like, "Why haven't we seen that yet?"
Yeah, even casual comic book readers even kind of know about the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah, well, really, the Hulkbuster is a fairly new thing. Like, it's only in the last 10, 20 years that even existed. But I'm excited to see it. To be honest, it'll be really cool
just to see it in action. That's gonna be a fight worth paying for. That's money on the door. Exactly. Yeah, and I think when it comes down to it, I think the entire trailer is very war-esque. Like, you can see a lot of people sheltering in shelter. I think the movie's going to be really, really good, but I actually want to confirm this. Is it either in 2 parts or in 1 part?
It's just the one.
One part.
Just the one.
Okay, I was going to say, because that's going to be a lot of action to put into one thing.
Oh, no. That's the thing. I'm kind of worried that it's going to be too much all in one space. Yeah. But the way... Well, I just heard a mad echo. The way the movies in general are going this way, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie is pushing 3 hours.
Yeah.
Really, if you think back, maybe 5 years ago, pre all the Marvel movies and whatever, just around the time of Iron Man and the Hulk coming out, movies really would be probably 2 hours at most.
Yeah.
But every movie that comes out these days, any big budget movie anyway, is almost at least 2.5 hours.
Because people are sitting down and they got the story and they just want to see all that stuff. It's they know the background that we've done with the origin stuff for the longest time, and now we're just getting people into the meat and guts of it.
And saying that, I think people these days, especially fans of the series and stuff like that, we're happy to sit there and watch multiple hours of the story. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but Amazing Spider-Man 2, I would have sat there for an extra hour and watched more.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's something I could say.
Yeah, and even Avengers and all that kind of stuff. I would sit there and if they said it's going to be almost 3.5 hours, I would be like, that's pushing it, but I'll watch it. Mm-hmm. But in saying that, the general public probably wouldn't. But yeah,
it's more content out there, really, and just to see how Guardians of the Galaxy went over with me.
Oh wow, yeah.
As a comic book that no one has heard about outside of our smaller circles.
Yeah. It's third highest grossing worldwide or something of the Marvel movies, which
gangbusters.
That's I think it's only beaten by Iron Man 3 and Avengers.
Yeah. Oh, I personally have the deepest point in my heart for that movie because it had my favorite character of all time, Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah, I know, right? When I found out he was in it,
I lost my shit in the theater. Yeah. I literally lost my shit in the theater.
I found out he was in it the day before I watched it, and I was just like, I wish I didn't know that so that I'd freak out in the cinema.
I didn't know. I purposely did it, and I literally we were standing up and like sitting in the back like oh my god, it's Hal the Duck.
I know, right?
I love the books. And we'll get into the actual heist of Hal the Duck in another point. That's going to be a topic. That's going to be a beautiful topic.
Yeah, I love that story, to be honest. It's hilarious.
I love the Hal the Duck movie. I know it's a pile of shit. I know it's a pile of shit.
It's horrible, but it's awesome. Like,
it's the thing of it, like, imagine Douglas Adams had written a comic book and had George Lucas fuck it up for it. It's just that, it's like, the opening line of that movie is like, multiverse. I love it. Nah, it's the first taste of multiverse that I ever received.
Yeah,
and it was the best. But yeah, and he was voiced by Seth Green.
Yeah, when I found that out, I'm like, I had two reactions at the same time. It was like, whoa, but at the same time, it was, that makes sense.
Yeah. And had Dave Bautista. I'm a bit of a wrestling fanatic.
Well, I'm not even much of a wrestling fan, but like watching that, Dave Bautista is actually a pretty damn good actor. Like,
he was brilliant in it.
Yeah, and a lot of people say just like the role. Really, I'm no actor, but it could have been done by a lot of people.
Yeah,
like it's not like it was a very like crazy, emotional role or anything. But in the same time, it kind of was.
Yeah, it's very much a Vin Diesel role where it's kind of this the tough guy, but Dave sold it like no one's business. Like I heard stories about he got the confirmed call at a gym and he freaked out and he was like laughing like a schoolgirl. Like he loves comics. Like a lot of people in the wrestling industry are big comics fans. Like that's actually a lot of people don't know that. Like
well, that's the thing. Like even like The Rock and stuff with him going to be Black Adam. Like
exactly, that's brilliant.
It's cool. And really for these kind of roles, wrestlers are probably a good idea, like
because they're born out, they're actors. They
and not to discredit wrestling at all, but it is acting. Like
exactly. It's people the same way as like Cirque du Soleil. Yeah, they're performing a story. They're putting their bodies online. It's these people are the truest form of actors. They are living the role.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the whole kayfabe. You can't really break kayfabe. You got to keep that story alive for people. And I think that's. Yeah. I think that's good training for people coming into a fantasy style scenario.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I can't wait to see what Dave's in next. I think Dave got a role that
he might. I heard he might be in the new James Bond.
Yes.
As like a minion type villain guy, which is pretty cool.
I think
that's exciting.
That fits him well.
Yeah, like it's like what was it? There's another movie that he was in recently. Is it The Man with the Golden Fist or something?
Yes, Wu-Tang Clan directed on the...
Yeah, it's Tarantino produced it or whatever, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like that look... I haven't seen it, but it looks really cool.
If you're a fan of the old style, like cheesy kung fu films, you're absolutely going to dig that. That's a
definitely one to look for.
It's the heart of like the watching kung fu films on TV kind of those vibes because the RZA is one of the biggest fans of comic books and in kung fu films, and you watch that and you see it bleed through so much. It's a lot of fandoms blend over, and you can never pick someone for being a comic book fan.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's anyone can like comic books, really. Like, for example, back to Age of Ultron, the trailer's been out for, at the time of recording this, a couple of days, and it's apparently beaten records on how many people have seen it.
Yeah, and they got forced to put it up because it leaked out.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, of just the random people that can enjoy this kind of stuff, I was at work the other day, going out the back to, like, I think I was going on break or something, and walked past a couple of girls at work there, and wouldn't have picked it, but then one of them just pulls it out and goes, "Oh, did you see the new Avengers trailer? It looks awesome." And I was like, what?
Man, that's always good news when you see people get interested in the films, and hopefully someday jump into comic books or any version of the universe, be it games, because there's nothing wrong with being a comic books fan. There was a lot of stigma back then.
Yeah,
of like the nerd image, but I think these days that's kind of very much diluted.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's kind of flipped over where it's almost cool to be liking comic books at the moment, you know?
Yeah, almost.
Or at least pretending to like them.
Sorry, I got something in my throat. It's Big Bang Theory. Oh, sorry, I'm checking on something. Yeah, I think comics these days are so open, and any place you jump into is always something good, and it's
definitely.
I think fantasy is in a new golden age where it's accessibility without degradation of the ideas behind them.
Well, if you think about it, in the next 6 years, we've got at least like 40 comic book movies coming out.
Oh God, Suicide Squad! I need that. I need my life.
Me too. But I'm going to say it, and I've said it before. They're going to have to change the name.
Oh yeah, that's a fundamental thing.
That's going to be like, if they don't, they're going to have people protesting or something.
Yeah,
because I have
name's got so much stigma to it.
Yeah, well, like I have no problem with it because I understand the name, like why it's called that.
Yeah,
but just for general public to see a movie called Suicide Squad, if they have no idea, they would think this is about a bunch of people that just go and kill themselves.
Exactly.
Which
it's Persona 4 apparently.
Yeah, like.
I think they might have to go with the Kamikaze clan or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's a little too KK for me.
Yeah, I reckon what they'll probably do is they'll go for a they'll still be called the Suicide Squad. Like they'll reference them being called that in the movie, but I think they'll maybe I don't know.
Funny name.
Yeah, like they could just call it like Argus something because that's what that's related to, but. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. If they do release it as Suicide Squad and everything goes fine, awesome. I would love that. But I can't see it happening.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be sorry.
Yeah, it's the stigma to it, I think.
Yeah.
I think like a cover name would be the best idea. And
But in saying that, there's been movies that are called suicide stuff. Like there's what is it, like The Virgin Suicides? Is that a movie?
Yeah, The Virgin Suicides.
Yeah, like there's movies called that, so maybe I'm just overthinking it too much, but it just seems that way,
I honestly think you're in the correct area because these movies are so mainstream, where those ones are more like the artistic elements, when this one is literally the name of the group. Because the group is a bunch of villains essentially working off their sentences to a degree. Which I want to say, if Harley Quinn is not in there, I'll still obviously watch it, but I'll be like, no, I'll cross my arms. Like,
but in saying that, I don't know how they're going to do it because obviously it's going to be part of their cinematic universe. But if they do that, then it means that they're going to have to skip a lot of things time-wise because they're obviously already skipping way ahead with Batman. Like he's going to be older, and apparently there's rumors of a female Robin, which would mean presumably that there's been Robins before.
Yeah.
Which means you'd have a Nightwing in the universe somewhere. But in saying that, like if they have Harley Quinn in there, that means that the Joker is prevalent in the Batman universe, or like part of this universe.
Yeah.
And
it
just kind of restricts what they can make movies out of.
Understandably, yeah.
But in saying that, it seems from the slate that they've released, it seems like they didn't announce any dates or anything for Superman or Batman movies, but I think maybe they're going to try and avoid doing standalone Superman and Batman movies for the time being anyway for this general thing. I wouldn't be surprised if, say, after this slate of movies or like maybe another 5 years, they reboot that universe with like kind of like a movie New 52 type thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the best way to do it, honestly, because otherwise you're gonna have so much. It's gonna be literally gonna become comics again, where it's everything's so convoluted. Like, that can't be
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people were saying that they wanted like the TV DC universe with Flash and Arrow and stuff to be part of that. But in saying that, then you've got all these characters that have been introduced on Arrow and on the Flash that they can't use in the movies because they're already being killed off or something like that. Like
exactly, like even with Gotham of all things, that's that faux modern area. Like where the hell does it sit?
Yeah, and like, well, Gotham, like I'm enjoying it, but it's digging itself into a hole. Like it can't end up in any Batman universe that we know.
No, yeah, like, it's going to be its own thing, or going to be so convoluted. It's going to be
exactly.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyways, as we were saying, Ultron. But anyways, back to that. It's going to be a really cool movie.
Oh yeah, fundamentally, yeah. I think Ultron is going to really show the definition of the new distinction of the new movies coming up. I don't know what it's called. What's it actually called? The new like. I'm forgetting. But it's like a guide that they say like this is the new ones. This is the new universe, new age.
Yeah, my brain isn't working.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's going to define that new era of movies.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different base because it's a lot more. Avengers 1 was a lot more upbeat.
Yeah, lighthearted but still serious.
Where you see like a Captain America 2 being a lot more kind of like you know.
Well, Marvel seemed to have this thing where each movie is almost a different genre.
Exactly.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy was basically a comedy. But in saying that, it was awesome. And like this one seems like, Avengers 2 looks like it's going to be almost, I was going to say a war movie, but not a war movie. Kind of like it will be like the superhero movie.
It's going to be shot in the style of the kind of the war films in the set.
Yeah, but in saying that, I think it's going to be like it's still going to be as maybe not as lighthearted as the original, but it'll be it's not going to be like super serious the whole time.
Yeah, it's going to have some brevity to it. It's going to have some weight to it, but it's still going to allow the people to mess around to have those big action scenes where it's just it's not going to have anything at cost to the story at all. It's going to be hopefully at the end of the day we do see. That beautiful combination of that team coming to see.
Oh yeah. And have you heard the rumors about the ending?
Ooh.
That with the stuff like, in terms of setting up for the whole Civil War thing, pretty much there's rumors that at the end of it, one was that Hulk will be like shot into space or whatever, which could lead into like a World War Hulk or a Planet Hulk or like a Guardians of the Galaxy crossover type thing. But then that I think is possible, but I think it's kind of unlikely.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it would have to be been in the books too early from us to not to know.
Yeah, exactly. But then also there's things of the idea that at the end of it, it kind of starts the whole Civil War idea where Captain America and Iron Man kind of are at odds to each other and kind of split the team, which is kind of a cool idea. And it, like, with all the new characters coming out in phase 2 or phase 3 or whatever you call it,
that's what the term is. Phase 2.
In phase 3 with like Doctor Strange and Ant-Man and possibly Black Panther, which I'll talk about in a sec. All these new characters that it could make that where the team splits, some of the older guys split off, some of those, and then the new characters come in, and of course Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the movie. But then in the trailer, did you see Andy Serkis?
Andy Serkis, yeah. I bloody saw him there.
Yeah, I knew he was going to be in it. For a while there, I was thinking he was going to be Doctor Strange because he was...
Oh my God.
He was rumoured for a while, which would have been really cool.
Oh, Andy Serkis Doctor Strange would be the best.
I know, right? But from what it looks like, people are saying Ulysses Claw, which is the main adversary of Black Panther, which... And there's so many things pointing to it being him, with the fact that Captain America's shield's broken, which Black Panther's home country of Wakanda is the only place that has vibranium to make that shield, and supposedly Ultron gets vibranium and makes himself made of it, so making him strong enough to break the shield.
That would actually make sense. It would reference adamantium.
Yeah, and then the idea is that. Obviously, if he is Ulysses Claw, then that would be his way of getting the vibranium or whatever. And then Oh, it's just so exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and there's rumors that, oh, well, not rumors, but like people saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool if at the end of the movie or in the movie there is Black Panther and they've already cast him and got him done it and everything and just kept it quiet. And
that'd be
in
excellent.
saying that, how good would it be if it gets to the end of the movie, there's that whole like them getting angry at each other thing, and then just all of a sudden, all the like these new characters that they're bringing in just kind of appear. You know,
that
like
would be actual magic. That would be just like the theater would erupt.
Yeah, like it would be kind of weird, and like it kind of works with like the whole thing about Marvel trying to get Spider-Man back, because that would once again goes into the whole Civil War thing.
Yeah. Well, I think with the Ultron movie is going to be featuring a lot of Annihilation storyline, because I don't think it's obviously going to be using, instead of aliens, alien robots, we're going to be using suits. They're going to build themselves. Yeah. So I think that's going to lead to the idea of the state bringing the act.
Yeah,
and
I think that's the way everyone's thinking about it, is the fact that it's going to be. The ramifications of this movie will then make the whole Civil War thing necessary.
Yeah, it's going to be the logical next step.
Yeah,
and I think that as a button on the end of that movie is going to bring so much more energy into it.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, they need a cliffhanger, like the whole thing with Winter Soldier with Shield going down and stuff, and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of made you excited. Once the movie's over, you're like, I want to see what happens now.
Exactly. And then I wonder where Bucky fits in the picture now.
Yeah, well, apparently he's not in Age of Ultron, which is kind of weird. And it kind of upset me that apparently Falcon's not in Age of Ultron either. Yeah, because I really liked him. But
I really like Falcon. He was really good in that.
Yeah, well, I think maybe he makes a cameo or something, but he's not in the main.
Yeah, he's not like. Yeah, he's not in the fight.
Yeah, but in saying that, from here on, those characters will be more into it. Like at the end, like if you think about it, at the end of Civil War, Captain America dies and Bucky ends up taking over. So
yeah.
And in saying that, Sebastian Stan does have like 8 movies on his contract. So he can't be Winter Soldier. Well, he could be Winter Soldier that whole time, but I have a feeling that he's going to be
put to a better use.
Yeah, taking over his Cap, because like Chris Evans has only got I think 1 movie on his contract left after Age of Ultron, and that'll be Cap 3. So it'll be interesting. But in saying that, he has 1 more movie, but then so did Robert Downey Jr., and apparently he's signed on for Captain America 3 as well now too. So you never know what happens, really.
Exactly, but that's the nature of the beast, and that's the nature of comics.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a good place.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to shut up about this. We're just going to keep talking for way longer. Before we go, though, let's have a quick chat about comic books in general.
Okay, not a problem.
Because we haven't been. But as you've told me previously, you haven't been reading much comic books lately.
Yeah, I kind of out of it. That's kind of my own fault on that end. But yeah, how have you been handling the world of comics?
Well, like I've said before, I've been reading a lot of DC stuff. I want to catch up on literally everything of the New 52. I want to get up to date. Because that's the thing with, like we were saying before, with New 52, there is a starting point that I can actually start at now and go forward. Marvel, not so much. I just kind of have to. Well, they've got a lot of new books and stuff, but yeah, I've got a couple of suggestions for you.
Okay, cool. I will definitely get them.
I think that you should definitely read the new Miss Marvel.
Yes, I've heard that. I think that's a good discussion to have.
It is the most surprisingly good book. I think we'll have to talk. Like, I'll wait for you to read it, and then we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah.
I read the first issue on the way to work one day on the bus. Downloaded it on my phone. I think at this point I had like $10 left in my account. No, like $10 or $20 left in my account, and that was going to get me lunch for the day. I ended up spending all of that money on the new, like, more issues of Miss Marvel, so I could read them on the way to work. It's so good, and it's still going. I think there are only maybe eight or 9 issues in. But it's just such a cool concept. Like, it's essentially a brand new character. It's very street level. It's
defining her own place.
Yeah, it's a legitimate origin story. Like, it's not going back and redoing an origin story. It is the actual origin story because it's a new character. So I definitely think you should definitely read that.
definitely, and I think our viewers should read that, and we might be catching up on a later episode. Maybe dedicated. We might do dedicated episodes. It's up to
definitely.
Exactly.
I like that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. If you get a chance, read that.
That's definitely on my watch list. So I having your recommendation, I will check it out.
Yeah, and then also if you want to read Swamp Thing because it's the best thing in the world right now.
Yeah, Swamp Thing's the best.
In saying that, I've read like 12 issues, and it gets to a point where now it's a crossover with Animal Man. So now I have to go and read Animal Man.
Oh, you haven't checked out Animal Man?
I've read bits.
There was like Animal Man was like highly regarded in the theater.
I have heard that. So
I'll put that on the card as well.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so is there anything else? Anything that you want to say to do with comic books?
I think it's a brand new dawn when it comes to comics. When the new films are bringing that interest in, even though it's still that culture of comics still around.
Oh yeah,
I think if comics put the right foot forward, I think we might be seeing a lot of newer people very young people coming into the comic book world.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing. Like I've got a 3-year-old nephew. I'm going to be giving him so many comic books.
You're gonna be the best lunch in the world, man.
Oh, I know, right? He's going to be the coolest kid. Even if he doesn't like him, I'm going to force him on him.
That's all right, man. But yeah. But the world of comics is still got some guts to it. And,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of fun. But yeah, so before we go, quickly mention a few things. I have a YouTube channel which is apparently not doing much at the moment because I have no time whatsoever. But it will be hopefully at the start of the year. And that if you want to go there, just I think if you go on there and search for Nightwing Gamer, all one word, you'll find me. I'm the one with more subscribers than the other guy that has the same name. But if you want to get there directly, I think it's YouTube/Nightwing5054. That's also my Twitter and Instagram if you want to check me out on there. Tom, what do you got?
Okay, well, I do the channel Agents of the Valley. On Twitter, it's Agents of Valley because it's too long. I do.
That's what you get for choosing a long name.
Exactly, and kind of a weirder name because it's based on the valley that we live in. Forget about it. But yeah, I do gaming stuff. We both do gaming stuff. So interested, youtube.com/Agents of the Valley. So check it out. Twitter, all that good stuff. And I think that's my plugin.
Yeah, I think I'll be making up a Twitter thing specifically for this show.
Yeah, no problem.
At some point.
Next episode, we'll plug it in and you can tweet us some questions.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so if you're listening to this, thanks. There's a good chance you'll be listening to it much later than me actually recording it. And everything we would have said is completely out of context because by now they've released all of the information of Age of Ultron.
We'll call this a speculation episode.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll have a new one out very soon.
Oh, almost definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So from me, Tom, I'd like to say thank you so much for you guys listening.
And from me, Jordan, I want to thank you guys for listening as well. Let me know what you think of this, guys. I've got, a Facebook page and stuff coming soon, a Twitter, like I said before. If you're interested at all in getting on the podcast with us and having a chat, send me an email. I am more than likely going to say yes. Because I just love talking about comic books to everyone and anyone. If you want to do that, email address is comicsnow@comic.com. Not comics, comic. But yeah, once again, thanks for listening, guys. I'm going to stop rambling on because I do that all the time. But yeah, later.